B to the O to the B to the A. Boba Joe.
AWA. We're in Gagne. On Minnesota.
The Boba Joe belt might be up for grabs in tonight's show. Could be anybody. Anybody could take it. Checking out this
Anybody could take
Super
it.
Clash.
Super Clash 3. We're beginning at the end of the Super Clash and the AWA journey.
Yep, it's the end times.
It's a good time to start in a way, though, to check in on all the drama that's going on. Hope everybody's keeping well out there this week. Hope you are enjoying our wrestling and wrestling rambles these last few weeks. Is this or is this not, Johnny? Are we on episode 99 or are we on episode 100 of the Boba Joe show? Where are we now?
I think we're on 90. Oh, not 100. Yeah, I think we're on 100 this week. It's around about. So I've misnumbered 100 times. It's either that or the other, but it's around, as far as the timeline from where we started. Yeah, week to week, it's 100.
Yeah, there you go, folks.
I'm gonna pat myself on the back.
Yeah, the network, they're very pleased with how things are going. They're going to renew us for another season. Another 100 episode season is on its way. The cash flying in there.
Yeah, the cash is flying in for that super cash. Cash in, cash out.
Yeah, we're actually going to get paid, unlike these poor souls who competed on tonight's Super Clash event.
That's why they have that look on their face. It's not because they're determined to win and they're bitter, kayfabe rivalry. It's because it's like, where's the damn money? It's like, where's the money, Verne?
Yeah. Give me my money. Where's my fucking money?
Where's the money, son?
And so it's our first foray into the AWA, the American Wrestling Association. Isn't that what it's?
Yeah, like this is an AWA event, which was it's a super card. It's a pay-per-view as opposed to Super Clash 1 and 2 were not pay-per-views. There were still super card, events and still kind of quality events. They're all on YouTube. They're free. You can watch them. They're worth a look. But this one, unlike other AWAs, well, actually, I think the other ones had combination stuff from other leagues, but this one specifically combined stuff from AWA and WCCW, Texas and all that, of course, and other places as well. It's got on the souvenir program that people took home, or some people took home from back then. I found a couple of scans of this online. It does mention in here the actual different promotions, which you can't read on there, even at the highest resolution. You're kind of squinting. So I popped the text out on canvas and then blew it up so I could actually read it. So it says in here, we had AWA, Mid-Southern CWA, Continental Wrestling, PWOW, Powerful Women Wrestling, which I don't know much about, but apparently it was run by the person that formerly ran Glow Wrestling, Northwest Promotions, WWA World Wrestling Alliance, and WCW World Class Championship Wrestling. So all of those had different, they're all coming together to put on this event, but organized by Verne, Gagne and the AWA.
And it's kind of the way it's put over, the way these kind of Super Clash events are presented. It's like a real, it's, as Verne would say, it's all these wrestling leagues, coming together, all the leagues, and we're all coming together for this big event. But the reality of it kind of is that Vince is pretty much on a complete rampage. He's taking over. He's buying up territories left, right, and center.
He's buying up everything.
He's destroying the traditional wrestling business as they would
wrestling,
know it. And on the other side, you've got Crockett Promotions that they're still making a play for being number 2, but essentially, like the Super Clash gang is pretty much everybody who's still on the outside and who's not a major national promotion. It's kind of like this it's an alliance of whoever's left to try and say, look, we're still here. The territory system can still work.
You know, Vince has scooped up a lot of territories, not just the territories and the talent. You know, he was like, it's like your NBA all-star team, you know, is like WWF. He's like pinched from everybody, creating this super team, if you will, of, you know, wrestlers, heels and faces. But he also pinched a lot of the cable TV stations, the infamous Georgia one, of course, the Black Saturday incident, and other less publicized ones like that, where like he bought up a lot of the TV time or the TV channel or whatever. He just grabbed everything he could and threw shit against the wall. Some of it worked, some of it didn't, but he got enough power and consolidated enough of it that, you know, he had the dominated the market, of course, especially in the later half of the 80s. So the other guys were left to clutch what was left, like Jim Crockett, of course, still had a bigger hold on the sort of South, but they become like another kind of mini WWF. They were reaching out, also trying to grab and, you know, buy up what they could of what was left that Vince had failed to get, or, you know.
It was the scramble for what remains, you know, to be taken.
It's really interesting times, I think. Especially, I think the middle of the decade, like 80. I mean, this is latest, like 88 or whatever, but like 85. Once you get 85 onward, you know, just everything's changed from what it's been the previous 30, 40 years. Once, you know, wrestling changed with TV come in because people can stay home and watch it, but they still made the most money from the crowds coming in. TV was just like free marketing basically for wrestling. But by the time we get to Vince's WWF, 85 through 90, TV has taken over, TV and cable has taken over from the live audience. That's become like the money earner, all these deals with the different networks and USA and pay-per-views, and that's become like the new thing, along with all the merchandise, the t-shirts and LJ and toys and action figures and all that shit.
It's funny though, it's throughout the show they're kind of, and it's a common AWA trait, but they're really kind of like, well, we're kind of anti-establishment, you know, we're not like those other big leagues like the WWF, and we don't, you know, we don't believe in bringing, you know, animals to the ring and doing wild gimmicks and characters, even though we clearly do, because look at this lineup we have before us. But Verne Gagne, he's always kind of talking about, you know, traditional wrestling and what he thinks wrestling should be, and he's very much against the more sports entertainment driven mindset of the McMahons up north. He wants good old wrestling, good old family fun. He wants the you know, the nuclear family to be able to go to the arena, get their tickets and sit down and give him some money. He might not give anybody else money, but give him the money and everything will be good. It's quite the lineup we have here of both, you know, past, present, and future stars in the business for the time.
And it's not, this event is not that different than things we've looked at recent weeks, like Clash and Bash and all that. It doesn't feel a whole lot different from your typical Crockett Supercard. We've got the leather strap match in there. We've got some blood and mess. We've got some interferences from managers. We've got some run-ins. We've got stuff you typically see in Crockett or in WWF, but not as bloody.
We've got some Jimmy Valiant. It wouldn't be like one of our non-WWF shows without Jimmy Valiant making an appearance. Yeah. But yeah, we've a good, you know, assembly of stars here. It is, you know, there's no Flair or Hogan level of star, but we do get, you know, Jerry the King Lawler.
You got two guys that have beaten those guys, which they point out.
Yeah, that's right. They do point that out. Lawler, of course, with the goatee, looking very young and spry. This show going up against Kerry Von Erich. And it's going to be, the whole thing is going to be based around this, you know, who is the one true world champion. As Kerry Von Erich says, there can only be one world champion in wrestling, and that's what we're going to decide tonight. You know, who's going to be the man who takes home not only the AWA World Heavyweight Championship, but also the WCCW World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
So Jerry the King Lawler, he's the AWA champion, and Kerry Von Erich is the WCCW champion, representing his home territory in Texas. And yes, this whole idea of the super clashes. We're bringing these major wrestling leagues together, all under the one umbrella. That one umbrella happens to be the AWA, just to make sure that Verne gets credit for this, this whole deal. He's a fascinating man, Verne Gagne, I have to say. He's a real
it's
interesting
weird. A lot of the old
character.
territory guys. I mean, obviously he was a decent wrestler and put on good shows and yada yada. And like I like the AWA. They had like good credibility of that and good talent. But a lot of the territory guys suffered from, well, one of their biggest strengths is also one of their weaknesses. It's like they kind of owned and ran the show in the territory, but also made either themselves or their son or brother, whoever, their top draw and star. So when you like getting too old, or when that's not working anymore, what do you do if you're like, it's your business and you're promoting yourself? Are you going to promote someone else to be the new star? You know, I mean, you had Hogan for a bit, of course, who disappeared to New York, and
you'll often find with some of these guys, they painted themselves into corners when it came to
it was
just
pretty
pushing
typical of a lot
themselves
of
and
the
their
territory.
family. And sometimes that can work out well. If you look at old boy Fritz von Erich, when he started to get old, he was able to push his sons. But the thing is, his sons had talent. Whereas with poor Verne, when he tried to push his son, well, I don't want to say, like Greg Gagne, he's not the worst wrestler in the world, but he is way over pushed for his level of talent. Like he's just, he's in there, like he shouldn't really be in there with Ronnie Garvin, in my opinion. Like he's not worthy of that spot. But, and like, if we were, I'm sure someday we will go back in time to, we could even do a backwards loop in the future of like Super Clash 2 and 1 and that. And we'll see that Greg is just, he's just heavily pushed, even though he's just not that interesting. He's like a smaller, skinnier version of his dad. And he doesn't even have he kind of has a similar way of talking to his father, but he doesn't have the natural charisma that his father had. And that's not even saying that his father was that charismatic anyway. Like, it's not exactly a Randy Savage level of promo his dad was.
He was known as more of an actual sports athlete, like genuine athlete as well as a wrestler.
Yeah, exactly. But he's an interesting guy, Verne. He's, he believes in the traditional values. He doesn't
used to
want
have a good
to.
doco on the network about AWA, but it's gone away now. Everything else is gone.
It's gone. I think the one that was on the network, it was originally a DVD. I think the DVD was called like The Fantastic Legacy of the AWA or something like that. Definitely worth a watch if you can find it. As Johnny Doe mentioned previously, a lot of this AWA stuff is on YouTube, as in the actual shows. So if anybody's interested in the show that we're going to talk about today, like AWA Super Clash 3 is available on YouTube in its entirety, in very good quality. The picture and sound
The
quality is
quality's good.
excellent.
You got 1, 2, and 3 on there, and they've got other house shows and whatever in varying quality. But there's a fair bit of stuff on there.
But it's nice though to add another branch to the tree here when it comes to our wrestling journey and the stuff
we've slowly worked our way through like the major different sort of pay-per-views of the 80s. I don't mean like every single yearly one from WWF, but I mean the first of each sort of thing, like your first WrestleMania, your first Clash of Champions, and your other one-offs like that the one that had the Rolls Royce that we were supposed to win. I can't remember what it's called. Classic, wrestling classic.
Wrestling
like
classic.
The early days of the first pay-per-views, basically, that where it was going from regular supercards into the pay-per-view market, was sort of like looked at the different ones of the era.
Verne, he was a little bit slow to the party when it came to pay-per-view. Like it's quite telling,
I guess more traditionalist, and probably, I don't know his age, but he's got to be 50, 60 around. I'm guessing at this point, and he's not. He's probably like dudes like Vince were just young enough where they they're in a different decade, and they don't care what was going on in the 60s and 70s. They just don't give a shit. They're like, this is my day. This is what we're going to do. Whereas the guys of a certain age are like, well, this is how it's always been, and this is how it's always going to be. They couldn't see the technology change in TV and cable, and I mean, internet's a long way away, but they couldn't think outside the box they were in to, you know, really expand that market. And a lot of these guys that ran these territories might have been good athletes or good wrestlers. Often they were terrible business people. Often they like paying off Peter and Paul over here and paying this guy off to get that guy to loan here. And maybe there's some bookies and loan sharks involved and some mafia guys in the background.
Yeah, there's always going to be some shadiness, I guess. Maybe that's too strong, but look, it's the
Well, they got banned from this arena,
carnival
so now they're going to
style.
go further out town, this other bloody arena, because they don't want to deal with them.
Exactly, yeah. Or, you know, this studio doesn't want to let you do tapings there anymore because you got in a fight with the guy who owned the building. Like there's always drama, or there's always potential for drama with some of these older style territories.
Yeah.
But Verne, yeah, he's a stubborn guy and he likes things done a certain way. And it's too bad in some ways because maybe if he had jumped on that pay-per-view bandwagon, even just say like 2 years earlier, he might have
Yeah.
still had a shot at clinging on. But by
Yeah,
the
because
time
they sort of died a slow death at AW. It was right up to what, early 90s, but like I think it was still technically existing, but it was a lot of just kind of like repeats and stuff edited together and all that. They were kind of like dead before that point.
yeah. But like even here, like what is this 88? This Super Clash, is that the
Yeah,
year we're
88.
in here? Like already in 88, you've got so much more stuff on pay-per-view from the WWF and WCW or like, you know, the NWA that you wouldn't have had 2 years earlier if they'd maybe tried. But, you know, Verne, like a lot of the old promoters kind of had the mindset of, oh, you know, well, TV and pay-per-view keeps the people from coming to the live shows, and it's all about the live
Yeah,
shows. And he's kind of correct in some ways. Like you do want to be able to still draw people to the live shows, like to be there in attendance, but there's so much more potential money to be made from like pay-per-view buys and TV advertising and all this
yeah.
other stuff you can do if you embrace it. But if you're not willing to embrace it, you're going to wither on the vine and eventually die off, as is what happened with the AWA. They just could not keep up. They choked.
Yeah, it's a shame because like I like a lot of the Crockett era wrestling and the AWA. I mean, it's a lot of what I would even say was better product than the WWF as far as if you're going to the live show. I think so it was better wrestling rather than you know, over the top gimmicks and that. But WWF took off with the you know, the bigger, louder personas and the marketing machine and the fancier graphics and the better video equipment, all that stuff. They were just going to win eventually, you know. Plus, you had someone that actually had a real business behind the scenes. Like, what, as terrible human being Vince McMahon may be, he always hired capable people like payroll, accountants, lawyers. Most other promotions don't even have these things. Or if they did, it was like someone's cousin's brother thing, and they didn't do it properly, and they end up in massive debt. And you know,
And the gap in production values is insane. When like we watched, like what did we watch? Like say from the same year, like say Survivor Series or SummerSlam, say,
yeah,
or something like that. And then you watch something like this where the show literally starts off, like before we even get into the matches, the show starts off with a complete audio botch where we hear Lee Marshall. He tries to tell people, you know, like welcome to Chicago, but it just cuts off as he says it, and then you hear nothing for like a decent amount of time before they're able to get the audio back again and start being able to introduce the show and start talking about the matches that are coming up. Is this our first time seeing Lee Marshall on a show, the voice of Tony the Tiger?
yes, I believe so.
Yeah, he's here in all his glory with his mustache and his mullet. He's having a great time tonight here at Super Clash 3. He actually is very good on the mic, I have to say, and you know, very enthusiastic throughout the entire show.
Yeah, I
He's
thought
definitely
everyone did
better
these
than
decent job, presenters, commentators. Like, there's no one I had a complaint about, really.
yeah. The only one I might have a little bit of complaint about is Verne when he does commentary on some of the matches, because he's just a bit of an old timer, and he's just talking about the old stuffs. But yeah, no, apart from that, it's a pretty good team of guys they have on the call tonight for the matches. And as you mentioned earlier, or as we mentioned when we were looking at the kind of lineup in this picture here, we're going to see some talent that's kind of in their rookie early years that are going to eventually go on to become pretty big forces in the 90s. And one of
Yeah,
them is featured in the first match because we've got Cactus Jack, Mick Foley himself. He's teaming with the rock and roll RPMs of Mike Davis and Tommy Lane. And they are going up against the amazing Guerrero brothers. We got Chavo Guerrero, Mando Guerrero, and Hector Guerrero. Of course, that's Chavo Senior, not young Chavo, who would come
I
about
think
later
the
on.
Guerreros in their matches here, they get more frequent fly miles than any other person without actually ever going on an airplane. They spend so much
Yeah,
time
the
just like leaping
Guerreros.
and flying around everywhere.
Oh, they are flying all over the place. It's actually crazy especially when you're watching, television footage like this that actually was shot at the time, and with camera quality and that. There's a lot of times from a distance where all those Guerreros look like Eddie Guerrero. Like you think you're watching Eddie
Yeah,
Guerrero sometimes. Just facially and that. It's like they could be just like almost twin brothers at times, even though then when you see them up close, you obviously can see they do look different. But from a distance, like Eddie Guerrero must have watched his older family members very closely when he was learning to wrestle, because it feels like when you're watching this 6-man tag, you're watching like all the stuff you're going to see Eddie Guerrero do in the future. It's like he must have borrowed his moves from each of his
yeah.
brothers. He took moves from them, like, and
Oh, for
kind of put them
sure. Like
together.
the
But
Guerrero family is amazing. Like, and the big, legacy in wrestling and all that. And it reminds me of the Gracies, like like Hoist Gracie and the Jiu-Jitsu dudes. Like they similar way they had massive family all doing the Jiu-Jitsu, but all like learning from each other and competing in different tournaments and all this. And
yeah, you know, they were born to wrestle. It was just
yeah,
a
amazing
big
talents.
tradition in that family. One of the real wrestling dynasties, the Guerrero family.
Yeah, for sure.
But
It's weird
it's
seeing old
amazing.
old Mick Foley actually looking fit and healthy.
Yes, you
He's
took the
actually
words
in
right out of
shape,
my
the
mouth.
most in shape you ever see him.
Yeah, he looks phenomenal. Phenomenal. He looks really
He's
slim.
actually got
Yeah, really
muscles.
in
It's
shape.
almost like, wait a
Yeah,
minute, is this the same guy? It's like,
you can see actual muscle definition in his arms,
yeah, yeah.
and
Because eventually he
he's
became Santa
still
Claus, like in his physique and in his spare time in his real life, he's like Santa Claus.
he still takes some of those classic cactus bumps, even though he doesn't have the meat in his
Mm.
bones to absorb them the same way he would later on. Like he takes that he does like a kind of like rolling senton off the ring, which misses, so he hits like the concrete, and it's a big like splat, and you just know that hurt like a motherfucker. You know
Yeah,
that was just not a nice bump to take. But even back then, even as youth, he was still risking it all just to make the crowd go ooh ah. But it works. It's very effective. You definitely believe in the man when he's out there in the ring doing his thing. It rhymes. Uh, very very short match here, but it's a really nice showcase of the Guerrero's there's kind of spectacular high flying stuff combined with the fact that they're a really in sync team. Like there's lots of nice like intricate double team moments and stuff like that where they're setting each other up for moves and setting each other up for tags. So really really nice kind of showcase of the Guerreros to open up the show. I said there, look, it's a short match. We're going to be saying that probably for all the matches up until the main world title match. Like there's no match on this show apart from the world title match that goes over 10 minutes at all, which is pretty wild. You know, to be reviewing a show like that. It's like it feels almost like a long set of TV tapings at times than like a pay-per-view event.
There's a good,
But yeah,
good
what did you think
variety
of
in the
that
matches though.
six
Like I
man?
found them entertaining.
Yeah, good fun match, good energetic match to open the show, and yeah, just to see Foley looking so fit and young, and you know, not missing part of his ear and all that stuff. Like that was
Yeah,
all
he's
ahead
got
of
all
him,
his
you know.
teeth.
Yeah, hasn't been blown up in a death match yet with Terry Funk. You know, he's got
Hasn't
so
broken
much
nearly every bone
punishment
in his
ahead of
body at
him.
this point.
Yeah, it's amazing to think of all he's going to be through in the years following on from this. But yeah, fun opener. Guerrero's pick up the win. So when we're on to our second match for the WCWA World Light Heavyweight Championship. Oh yeah, this is the thing that's going on at this time as well. I kind of forget is this WCCW is kind of under like the branding now of WCWA. It's still the same company, but I think they've
Yeah,
mixed up
the
the
Jeff Jarrett and Memphis or whatever it was, like bought them out
yeah.
or whatever.
But yeah, another future star in the making here because we see a very, very fresh faced young Jeff Jarrett.
He's had such a long career because he was like wrestling then all through the 90s. Then he got the TNA and now he's doing podcasts. So, and
Yeah.
as a kid, he was obviously, you know, part of his dad's business and all that. So basically his whole life, and he's still going now.
And someday we're definitely have to dip our toe in TNA because TNA is it's an amazing promotion in many ways. I still can't believe it still exists, and even in whatever
Yeah.
form it does, it's insane.
Yeah, I
It's
got my
been through
first
so many.
DVD the other week. It was the Kurt Angle one. It was like all TNA matches. So I haven't watched it yet, but because you
Oh,
don't
you're going to enjoy
typically,
that.
there's no way for me to watch the stuff unless apart from YouTube or whatever.
You're in for a real treat, Johnny, with that DVD. I'll say that much. We
So
won't
is it
get
going to
into
be
it
better
now.
than that other one that was around for like 1 year in 2002 that had like Hogan and whatever in it?
Oh, the XWF. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
so
was...
much more better than that. Yeah, but no, we'll get there someday. But yeah, in the meantime, we have a very fresh-faced Jeff Jarrett going up against Eric Embry here, and Jarrett, like I'm just really not used to seeing Jeff Jarrett. Like I know kind of Jeff Jarrett is either the country western singer guy with all the glittery stuff,
Yeah,
or as the guy with the short hair who hits people over the head with the guitar. Like those are the main
yeah,
two
he's like
things I think
the
about
new
with
honky
Jeff
tonk
Jarrett.
guy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's so weird seeing him as this like smiley, happy, just
He's more
young
like a,
rookie.
I don't know, not in attitude, but in the look. He's more like a fabulous Freebird sort of look or something.
Yes, he's just a real yeah, you just see a real happy-go-lucky chappy the way he
The
is
thing I love
in
is he's
this
not
match.
wearing those goddamn stupid male stripper strap things. I just visually
Yes,
hate those strap things so much. Just wear the pants without the fucking straps.
yeah, he had some awful ring attire for a good chunk of the 90s,
He's
I
always
have to
been a
say.
decent wrestler, but some of the characters and gimmicks, I'm just like, oh god, I just cringe in some of the 90s stuff.
But he gets beat though. He loses the championship here to Eric Embry, who, to be honest with you, apart from being a name that you're going to see on shows like this, I don't have that much knowledge of him or any type of insight to him other than from what I see on this night, he's definitely a good, competent worker who's able to work a fast-paced match. The Lee Marshall and whoever else is on commentary, maybe Verne, are like, oh well, Jarrett, like he's like the top light heavyweight in the country and all this stuff, and like a real innovator of light heavyweight action. And you're just kind of thinking, yeah, well, you clearly haven't been watching Japanese wrestling, and you clearly haven't been watching the 6-man tag that literally just happened the match before, where we saw guys doing much more high
Yeah,
flying stuff and much
watching that.
more. Yes, but you know, we'll take what we can get there in that praise. But yeah, a nice little match. I'll say one thing about this show, because the matches are so short. you're never kind of going, oh well, that was a real stinker. Maybe just
Yeah.
one match, which we'll get to in a little bit, but like other than that, it rolls by at a pretty smooth pace, this show.
Yeah, I'd rather be consistently entertained for 5 minutes than bored for 20 minutes.
Yeah, like even this next match, like usually when you see Jimmy Valiant's name on the card, you're like, oh my God, we have to endure a Jimmy Valiant match, but it's only 24 seconds. I can deal with 24 seconds of Jimmy Valiant. Like, that's perfectly acceptable.
That's
But
like
yeah, it wouldn't be
if you watch something from this year, they wouldn't even get to the ring in that time.
yeah. Well, look, it wouldn't really be one of our non WWF review shows if we didn't see Jimmy Valiant pop up and
Well, I
do
know he's
his
your favorite. I know
silly
you say bad
dance.
things about him, but he's secretly your all-time favorite wrestler.
He is. He is. Well, look, the man worked everywhere, so that's to be admired. You know, he was definitely always able to find employment. And
Oh yeah.
hey, look, the crowd are still reacting to his silliness. It's funny, yeah. So he's beating Wayne Bloom in this really short comedy match. Wayne Bloom is one half of the Beverly Brothers tag team later on in the WWF. The other half of the Beverly Brothers tag team is actually the guy who's refereeing most of the matches on the show, Mike Enos. So that's interesting that both of these fake brothers both worked in the AWA at the same time. One as a wrestler, one as a referee, and then they both went on to become like a WWF tag team. But on this night, Wayne Bloom is just getting his ass beat in fast fashion by Jimmy Valiant. And like I said, it's nice and short, so Jimmy doesn't get to stink the place out too much with his rickety legs and dodgy
With
performance
his
that
old
we're
man
usually
funk.
subjected to. So yeah, next up, another short one. It's Iceman King Parsons versus Brickhouse Brown.
Great names.
I don't
Like,
know.
those great wrestling names. I'm not saying about the actual Billy and Tom, but just those names are just like they're just really catchy. It's like even
They're
if I've never
really
heard them, like yeah, I'll watch someone called Brickhouse Brown. He's got to do something.
yeah. I could see these names on like an old timey like boxing poster or
Yeah, like
something,
the
like for a big
boxing
boxing
followers.
showdown. Yeah, it just sounds like two sluggers. You know, you're going to watch this fight. It's an okay one. This one, not too much to kind of go over. They have a pretty standard match for the WCWA Texas Heavyweight Championship, which is, I suppose you'd describe it as like the secondary title in the WCWA after, I suppose, the television title. So maybe it's more like a third tier title, but decent little match between Iceman and Brickhouse. Nothing too memorable. Can you remember much in this that you thought was like
Oh,
anything
there's
special?
nothing really stands out to me. Like it's, um, you know, I didn't like really hate any of the matches overall on the card. So, but some of them were just kind of like forgettable. Yeah.
The main thing I actually probably remember from this match is like the promo before it, which had nothing to do with the match. It was just I think it was like one of the ladies who's going to be in the lingerie battle royal later on, just doing a promo. I think it was the terrorist, yeah, the Syrian terrorist does a promo talking about how she's going to destroy all the other ladies
Yeah, I didn't
in the
mind the odd
lingerie
little
battle
promo,
royal.
and I love the. I don't know who came up with the title, but like the like lingerie battle royal was just such a great name for a match. And I also like that if you were watching this in like Attitude Era Vince wrestling on cable, it would be like over the top and really, Jerry Springer level of trashy. But this match is just like harmless PG family fun, despite the name of it.
It is, and it's going to be a little fun. It's going to be a fun one when we get to that one. Though we will have some ladies in action for the next match because it's a mixed tag team. So we've got Wendy Richter, who of course we know from WWF fame, and she's teaming with the Top Guns, Ricky Race and Derek Dukes. and they're teaming up against Bad Company, which is Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka, very good tag team. And they, of course, are with Medusa Masali, who we would just usually know as Medusa or Alondra Blaze. But yes, in their corner, bada bing, bada boom, bada bang, the Diamond Man himself, Master of the Diamond Cutter, though that does not exist yet at this point in time. Diamond Dallas Page, the manager, the man who's only just really gotten into the wrestling business in his mid-30s. He's going to start off as a manager, and in a few years' time, he's going to be like WCW World Champion. That's quite the journey he's going to go on.
40. I love seeing him with his outfits from back here. This is his over-the-top manager character that's like, you know, quite fairly cartoonish, all glam, the big locks. He's got the stogie in his mouth like Arnold and the sunglasses. I just love it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. And he's so over the top. He's all like doing the good God. And he's going to be on the show a couple of times tonight, because he's managing a few people at this time. But yeah, he's out there. This is giving me flashbacks to when we talked about our Great American Bash last week, because I'm pretty sure on that show there was also like a mixed tag. It was like a woman and two men versus it was the Jim Cornette match. It was Jim Cornette and the Midnights versus, was it Baby Doll, Dusty, and somebody in like a cage or something like that. So yeah, that's obviously a bit of a trend back in the 80s to have these mixed tag matches. This one though, great fun. It's Medusa who takes the loss, from what I remember. So it's a bit of a weird stipulation, because you've got the AWA World Women's Championship on the line, and supposedly the World Tag Team Championships are on the line as well. And the way the finish of the match goes down, you kind of get the impression that not only does Medusa lose her women's championship, but obviously also the the Bad Company lose theirs. But it actually transpires, so it's kind of like almost like a half Dusty finish. It's only the woman can win the woman's belt, and only the tag team can win the tag belts, basically. So Medusa did lose her belt because she got pinned by Wendy Richter. But the Bad Company tag team did not lose their tag titles. They retained their tag titles. It's a very strange stipulation. It's a bit convoluted. It's a way to do a finish that on the night makes it look like there was all the titles switched, even though only one of them switched. So it's kind of a bit of that typical wrestling bait and switch. But apart from that, the match itself, the action, it's fast and furious. Top Guns are a decent tag team. Bad Company are a very good tag team. And like I said, getting to see young Diamond Dallas Page in the corner doing his thing is a real treat. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed this match, and I like seeing the variety of talent, and it's very much of the era too, like the styles and outfits and all that, and seeing DDP. I always call him DDP, but he is, he's just Dallas Page back then.
Yeah, the Diamond Cutter has not yet become a thing, and all that good stuff that's going to happen to him. It's all in the future, but it's just
I love that the Diamond Cutter also became the Stunner, and what do they call Orton's one?
The RKO.
Like Randy Orton. Yeah, like they're all variations of the same thing.
And the sky is going
actually
to be
Mark Miro had another version of it as well. It's like, lots
of guys, and like cutters in general have become such a common move now in wrestling. It's like the new DDT. Like everybody does some variation of a cutter.
But I know at least that with the Stone Cold and Mark Miro, both of them were friends with DDP, and called on the phone and said, do you mind if I do this move? Because I'm basically ripping off your move. He's like, no, I don't care. Go do it.
Up next, we're kind of going to circle back to our semi-burial of Greg Gagne. I don't want to totally go too hard on him, because he is a decent wrestler in the ring. We're going to see him here going up against Ron Garvin, and yeah, he's okay. He throws a good drop kick. He can do the moves and all that. The only thing, like, he's quite small, especially compared to, and we're not exactly in a promotion here that's filled with steroid guys, but he even looks small by comparison to a lot of normal looking guys. And yeah, it feels like he shouldn't really be beating Ron Garvin, even though it is through count out. It's a bit of a cheap win. So they're having this match for the AWA the AWA TV Championship, which is disputed. It's actually vacant, and yeah, they have this short match. It's mainly Greg getting beat up real bad by Mr. Hansa or Fist of Stone, Ron Garvin, for a good chunk of the match. It eventually spills though to the outside where they're both kind of brawling, and as the referee starts initiating the 10 count to get back in, Greg just makes the ring in time before the 10 count is called. So he beats Ron Garvin, but because the match is for like a vacant belt, he gets awarded the belt as well, which is a really crappy way to win a belt. Like, you win a belt by count out. Like, you didn't beat the guy, like, you didn't pin him, you didn't submit him. You just ran back to the ring in time before Bodie has got counted out, and you happen to be the first guy back. So that's a bit of a lame way to win a belt. And the Chicago crowd on this night must think it's kind of lame too, because Lee's interviewing him after the match, and he's like, trying to get a few words with him, and the crowd are just booing him, even though he's supposed to be the plucky underdog babyface. And he must get kind of like thrown off by the fact that the crowd are booing him, because he kind of turns on them a bit, and he's like, well, I was just like the Minnesota Vikings coming in here and beating the Chicago Bears, talking about beating the home team, which is a kind of heelish thing for a supposed good guy to say. So it's clearly kind of getting to him that the crowd are booing him. But yeah, Greg, you can definitely see why he's in the shadow of his dad for his career, like, because he just looks like a smaller version of his dad as well. Like, they even have the same type of like hairline and stuff, and just yeah, I think his reputation as like a Nepo baby or whatever is kind of well earned. I'm sure he'd totally disagree with that, which he's perfectly, within his rights to do so. But I don't know. What do you think of Greg? Is he worthy?
No,
Is he
it's not
worthy of
someone I
main
want to
event
pay to
status?
watch. It's not like he's like Bret Hart, the sort of Stu Hart, who started out just working in the territory, not even wrestling, just like working at the show, doing odd jobs, then got roped into doing wrestling he didn't want to do, and then went on to be a great, tag team star and later singles star. It's like, not everyone can have that sort of career and talent. Some people are just around the business because they're family, and they probably shouldn't have been in the ring.
I would say though, Greg is not the worst of the wrestler sons. I would still say probably maybe the worst of all time has to be David Flair. David Flair just sucked. Like, he was terrible. Like, he did not even get like one minuscule 0.5% of his father's talent. He could do absolutely nothing. At least like Greg Gagne, he can, like I said, he can still do nice looking moves. He can throw a good drop kick. Like, he can perform in the ring. It's just that, like, he doesn't have a personality, and he's really just not over on a big scale.
Anyone could go and learn the absolute basics of wrestling, but it doesn't mean they should wrestle just because you learn it.
Yeah.
And
that's not to say that
Sable learns the basics, but doesn't mean she should be in the ring.
The thing about it is, though, with maybe somebody like Greg, if he was wrestling on the undercard and just kind of maybe losing in matches, nobody would say anything. Nobody would really have a complaint. It's because it's because he's being pushed and he's being used against actual stars. Like, even though it's a cheap win over Ron Garvin, it is still a win over Ron Garvin. Like, he is beating somebody that's way more of a star than he is. Like, it's a bit kind of, it's definitely a bit of an over push going on.
It's like if Shane McMahon beats the Undertaker up. It's like, it's nonsense. It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. It's totally unbelievable.
It doesn't really win.
Yeah, it's not even believable that he should be able to go toe to toe with him. Never mind,
Yeah,
like, you know, come close to even beating him. But after that, I don't know. Maybe this is the match that can leave a bit of a sour taste in your mouth for some people because of the fact that it's got a cheap finish for the title switch, and then we've kind of just got that reverse reaction for Greg at the end. So it's nice that we get a little bit of a palate cleanser here for the next match, because we've got the eloquently titled Street Fight Lingerie Battle Royal, and
yeah. I
we are
forgot the
going to
street fight, but it's
see.
so long. It's like lingerie battle royale, but also street fight. Like it's just like got that
Yeah,
edge to it as well. It's got the sexiness, it's got the edge, and it's royale, so it's classy as well.
so we've quite the lineup here. I'll tell you the women who are in this match. We got Bambi, we got Peggy Lee Leather, we got Laurie Lynn, or Lori Lynn, I should say. We got Brandy May, we got Malibu, we got Pocahontas, we got the Syrian terrorist, and then we have our two most famous members in the match. We have Nina, who would go on to become Ivory in the WWF, and we have Luna Vachon, who of course is daughter of Mad Dog Vachon, and she'd go on to have a great career in wrestling. We will see her in a couple of years' time in the WWF, managing all sorts of people like Shawn Michaels and Bam Bam Bigelow, and having a great old time. So yeah, the future
That old
Ivory
time.
and Luna here in this match, but neither of them are going to get the victory in this historic match. We're going to see lots of rolling around. We're going to see lots of stockings being torn off and evening gowns being pulled out as these ladies desperately try to either declothe one of each other. That was a big tongue twister there, but they're trying to declothe each other and, you know, throw their opponents over the ring in order to win the match. There's two ways you can win the match. You can either completely strip all your opponents down to their lingerie, or you can throw them over the rope. It's a bit of a weird double way to win stipulation, but it all comes down to the Syrian terrorist being the victor. She's actually a beautiful young woman. I've no idea what her name was, but she can cut a good promo and she looks
Yeah,
really
the
good. So
promo's
I'm
good.
not sure why the WWF or the WCW never tried to hire her in the early 90s, because she does well for herself, and she was um clearly, you know, she was thought of highly within the ranks of how since she was given the nod to win the Street Fight Lingerie Battle Royal. But, you know, I know it's kind of, you know, we do live in a time where, you know, you can look back on some eras of women's wrestling, and especially as you mentioned, like with the Attitude Era, you can look back and stuff and be like, oh, this is very kind of, you know, seedy stuff or whatever. And I guess on its surface, you could say the same for the Street Fight Lingerie Battle Royal. But I don't know.
It's
I did
cheesy, but
enjoy
I
it. I
find
think
it inoffensive fun, and it's
yes,
more
yeah,
like if you had a men's equivalent where they're fighting in dresses or something. It's just kind of silly match. It's not, you know.
yeah. I didn't feel like it was. I don't know. It's hard to know. Like the
It
commentators
doesn't
didn't
feel
go
like an
too
exploitation
heavy.
match. It just feels like a silly gimmick match
Yeah.
for fun. Like,
Like there was a wee bit of innuendo on commentary, but they didn't go too hard on like the whole you know, sexual aspect of stuff. But it was pretty funny when it comes down to the last two. I think it's like Bambi and the Syrian terrorist are the last two ladies in the ring, and when, like, you know, Syrian terrorist or Bambi, like they're trying to strip each other off, and the crowd start chanting, take it off," and then the commentator, like Lee Marshall's, like, "Oh, the crowd are chanting, let's go Bambi, let's go Bambi." It's like, no, I don't
let's
think
go.
that's what they're chanting.
It's classic.
So it's weird. It's kind of like they want to have their finger in both pies. Like it's like they kind of want to have this kind of titillating, you know, lingerie thing going
Mm.
on, but at the same time they're trying to play it down on commentary. Like, oh no, it's totally, you know, it's a totally legit athletic competition. You know, don't worry about this
Yeah,
stipulation.
I feel like it's like the name and setup to me is like, you know, on the card or the menu, it's like, oh, here's something that's a bit exciting and silly, but like it's not when you watch it, it's fairly tame. Like it's not, you know, like there's families watching. I doubt anyone's terribly offended, or you know.
And the next match, though, it's a little less tame. We're going to see some shenanigans and some weapons play. It's going to be the real life G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter going up against
America's hero,
Colonel De Beers. And of course, who's out again? Master the Diamond Cutter, Diamond Dallas Page. I actually forgot to mention earlier on when we spoke about the mixed tag match. When Medusa lost that match, Diamond Dallas Page pretty much disowned her and kicked her out of the Bad Company group at the end of the match. There's actually a pretty funny interview at the end of the match where Lee Marshall asks Diamond Dallas Page how he feels about Medusa losing for the team, and Diamond Dallas is like, I don't even know that bimbo. I don't even know her. It's like you literally just were managing her like 5 minutes ago, you know, and now you've totally disowned her. So that was pretty funny. But he's back out here, Diamond. He's going to be managing Colonel De Beers, and he's basically going to be watching the good Colonel mostly get his ass kicked by Sergeant.
What's the rules of a boot camp match? I know Slaughter's done a few of them, but what
is the boot camp match is just a gimmick name for your typical no DQ weapons match. Right. With the only real thing being is you're going to see some military themed offense with the weapons. So in this case, we see that the Sarge uses his helmet as first he used it as a battering ram, then later on he's just using it as a basic weapon to like club De Beers over the head. At one point, you know, De Beers gets his hand on the helmet and starts like using it to headbutt Sergeant Slaughter to get a tiny little bit of heat in him, because for the most part, De Beers is the one taking the punishment here. It's Sergeant Slaughter who's the big star and the hero of the day. Who's going to
you can't get out of that camel clutch, man. Once he's got
you
that
can't
on
get
you.
out of that camel clutch. And even with all the there's a lot of shenanigans happen at the end of this match where we actually see like back in, you know, Iron Sheik and, you know, Sheik Adnan all doing interference, but they're not quick enough to get to the ring.
Because I wasn't expecting it. Like, oh,
yeah,
Sheik, and he's still in reasonable shape at this point.
Yeah, he's in good shape, man. He's looking good, and you know, when he comes out, he runs to the ring to try and break up the finish, but he's too slow, and Sergeant Slaughter still ends up winning the match. So they're unsuccessful in stopping Sergeant Slaughter and winning, but they do a real number on Slaughter after the match, and he's held down while Sheik drives a spike into his head, and like, you know,
I'd be so excited to see that as a run-in. If it's like someone didn't know he was even going to be on the card, I'm like, oh, really cool, iconic wrestler, is it? You know.
Yeah, this is definitely apart from the match we're going to get for the unified world title, this is probably the highlight of the kind of the show, this Sergeant Slaughter, because it's not even the match, it's more like the whole wild brawl and aftermath, because
it's the wild brawl,
he gets spiked,
yeah,
he gets stabbed in the head essentially by the Sheik, and
then Sheik's got, I don't know what he has, but he's repeatedly stabbing the pencil or whatever the hell it is in his head.
And then it gets so intense, you know, that the Guerrero brothers then have to run out from backstage
that's
to
right.
kind of chase off all the
several lots of interference and run-ins,
and then after all of that, like as if that wasn't enough, Lee Marshall comes away from the commentary desk to interview Sergeant Slaughter, and Sarge is all fired up and he's bleeding, and then he leads the audience in the Pledge of Allegiance, and the audience got really into it. They're all like, you know, chanting along with him and all that, like, you know. So even though the match was only like a 5-minute match, but everything around the match and all the kind of hype afterwards was kind of nearly the main memorable thing that happened. But yeah, it was a really fun time, and
you got good match,
always
fun
great
run,
to see the Sarge.
Great like post-match promo, and like just I just love Slaughter, man. He's one of the all-time best like promo guys, and that, and just talking.
Isn't it crazy?
He gets he's almost like salivating, spit. He was like, you know, when he yells, and he's like...
But here he is now. He's Sergeant Slaughter, the American hero, and he's fighting off these evil sheep of and now in a few years' time he's going to be teaming with them and taking on Hulk Hogan against America.
That's still two
It'll be
good
quite the
guys. The
turnaround.
bad guy in my book.
Yeah, it's just and it's all the same guys though. It's that dude Adnan. It's the Sheik.
Yeah.
It's like all these same guys just
Rotating
doing
around
that
the
thing.
different
It's
characters and
just but no, great fun. And next match actually is a decent enough match. The Samoan SWAT team, some OG Bloodline members here with Samu and Fatu, accompanied by Buddy Roberts, which is a weird manager for the team.
yeah.
But they're
Michael
taking
Hayes.
on Michael Hayes
Michael
and
Hayes.
Steve Do It Cox.
Not to be confused with Doc Hendricks, unrelated to Michael Hayes.
Yeah, they're two totally different people. We swear to God.
One has a haircut and one doesn't.
I suppose it kind of makes sense for Buddy Roberts to be managing the Samoan guys because he used to be in the
USA. Yeah, it's got it
Freebirds.
on there. It's official. That's
Yeah.
where he lives.
So yeah, it kind of makes sense for him to be managing because he's an ex-Freebird and he's going up against Michael Hayes, I suppose. So that kind of makes sense.
Actually, the
Steve
promo
Cox,
was awesome. I can't remember if it was before or after the match, but the promo of Michael Hayes was awesome too. I was like riveted. I was like, oh, I got to listen to every word you say.
yeah, he's definitely got the charisma, Michael Hayes, no doubt about it. Like
Still a wild man. Before he's been tamed by Vince McMahon, and he sits there, him and what's the dude, Brother Love, like him, all McMahon stooges that sit there in those documentaries, and they just repeat like, what's on the script? What does it say? Okay, read this here. Like, no opinions about anything. Just read the fucking script or whatever the company line is. But here he's still like the wild man. He's like a genuine person.
Yeah, and he's still got his gift of the gab, and it's on full display during that. I think it's a post-match promo he does afterwards. Like Steve Cox, who's in this match. Steve Cox to me is like he's a bit like Eric Embry in the first match. He's one of these guys where if it wasn't for a name I see kind of pop up from time to time on these old cards, it's like he's like one of these guys I just couldn't tell you too much about him. Like as a wrestler, he just he was there, he was in and around, he worked in a lot of places, he could wrestle, he is definitely competent, and he's part of the match here. But the star of his team really is Freebird Michael Hayes, and obviously it's the Samoan SWAT team that are the big star opponents here. But a good little match, a little bit longer than most of the matches we've been seeing, but it's a fun match to see the Samoan SWAT team get the win. And they're also the WCWA tag team champions, so they've held those belts now, or a version of the tag belts, in quite a few companies now. The Samoan SWAT team, they're quite the accomplished tag team, and of course they will be going on to success later on in both WWF and WCW.
Yeah.
But another regular recurring feature, it feels like, when we're reviewing non-WWF shows, is we're either going to review a chain match or a strap match, or maybe both. And today's show is no exception. It's the Indian strap match. What did you think of the Indian strap match between
I quite
Wahoo
enjoyed
and
this
Manny
one.
Fernandez?
I think I actually enjoyed this one better than last week's Indian strap match with Wahoo McDaniel, whether it was Bash or Clash, whichever one we were doing. Like, he seems to be doing this match in a lot of these events.
Definitely seems to be his feature gimmick. I suppose it's a personal gimmick, the Indian strap match.
Fernandez, like he was a similar weight and size, so it felt like an equal pairing rather than being unbalanced. Big guy and small guy. It's good to see two big, round, roughy, tufty looking blokes who could definitely dish out and take a lot of punishment.
Yeah, and Manny, he's despite his large frame, he was always really good at moving around the ring. So even though Wahoo is not the most agile at this point of his career, but Manny Fernandez is. He's very nimble in there in the ring. He really keeps it moving, and keeps it exciting. And it's a bloody affair, as we would expect with a strap match, and as you would expect with, we've seen Wahoo bleed a few times now. We've seen Manny bleed a few times on different shows we've reviewed. So no surprises here. The Indian strap match is a violent and bloody affair. But I think I would also agree with you. I think of the strap matches we've reviewed and watched recently, this has probably been my favorite. It just moved at a really brisk pace. They used the strap well. They didn't overdo it in terms of time.
Yeah, I like when they're like when you got like two hands like this and they wrap it around both wrists and like drag the other guy around. I love when they do that.
Yeah, great
Using
spot.
like good leverage.
Feels like you always have to see it if you're going to be watching a strap match.
Yeah.
You need something
Now,
like that.
we're coming up to our last matches, and I'm thinking it'd be nice to go on a high note rather than kind of. So maybe let's talk about the
Yes,
Rock and Roll Express one, and then we'll finish up with the Lawler
that's a
one
great
after that.
idea.
Because I'm like,
That's a
why did
fantastic
they
idea.
put this after the main event? Why didn't they put it before the main event? It just feels a bit weird.
And what? Maybe this is like a curse of 1988 or something, because we said this as well when we did our Royal Rumble review. It's
Because I'm
like they
sure
had the big
some people
Royal
go and
Rumble
car park
match.
those matches on. Not
Yeah,
to say it's
but like
bad, but just like they've had all this build up, these shorter matches, a big 20-minute match, the main one. Then it's like, oh, and by the way, here's another tag team match. It's like we could have had this before the main event.
it's a tag team match that ends in a fucking double disqualification. So it's not even like you're sending the crowd home happy, to end the show.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a special reason. Oh, we better give them this tag match, because we need to do this
Maybe
important
they thought there
finish.
might have been a riot from the main event at some point. We better have another match just to stop people killing each other up, in case it all turns on us.
Maybe, or maybe they even felt like, what, we've kind of ran through this whole show pretty quickly. Like, we haven't even had, apart from the main event, we've had no matches that went over 10 minutes. Maybe we need to give the punters something that they'll feel they got a bit of value for the money if they say they got 12 matches instead of just 11 matches. But okay, so look, I suppose the long and the short of it is Rock and Roll Express, they're a great tag team, and I have to say the Stud Stable are a very good tag team as well. Robert Fuller and Jimmy Golden, they're actually going to have a bit of a run in WCW in the next year or two. So there's not like there is technically nothing wrong with this tag match. It is a
No, not at all.
perfectly acceptable, well worked tag match. The problem is where it's placed on the card. The crowd are
I would have
mostly
put it
dead.
2 or 3 matches earlier, just to kind of like to pace things out.
Yes, it could have. To be honest with you probably could have replaced the Iceman King Parsons and Brickhouse Brown match maybe with this match.
Easily.
That would have been a good spot on the card for it. But yeah, they do the double DQ finish. The crowd aren't really happy about it at all. And plus, most of the match, like it's a 7 minutes match, but about 5 of the 7 minutes are taken up of just Robert Gibson getting beat up, which isn't that good. You're usually like to see Ricky Morton be the guy who gets beat up because he sells a little bit better. So they don't even do their usual formula for tag match that good here, and it's just when you think it's going to get going, when Ricky Morton tags in, that's when they actually kind of do the fucking double DQ finish, and then it's kind of like, oh, it's over, and
Yeah.
kind of, wet fart ending to the show. A surefire way to make sure that if you do a Super Clash 4, you're going to get even less of a crowd because you just kind of pissed off the audience with your last 2 matches. But we're not okay. We skipped what should have been the main event. Now we're going to talk about the main event. We're going to talk about.
And if I guess if this event had been a Crockett match, if they, for whatever stupid fucking reason, if they put a bonus match after the main event that everyone got real psyched up about, it would have at least been a cage match. It would have been something to, like.
Yeah, and whoever was in the match, they would have made sure that the babyface person or team won to make sure the crowd got sent home happy.
That would make sense.
They wouldn't have just thrown out a match with a dud finish, just like this is
It's
just
like
it's
you've
a
gone out,
real.
you've watched Led Zeppelin or The Who. Here's all the songs you know. Oh, here's one you've never heard of, B-side. Now go home. It's like, no, play the stuff we'd like at the end.
Like, get out of here, you know. Don't even
go
go to get
home
your
and be
jacket.
sad and cry. But yeah, no, we get to the main event.
You know,
Lawler versus Kerry Von Erich.
Lawler versus Kerry Von Erich. Now we're going to get a finish to this match that the crowd are not going to be happy about either. But at least before we get to that finish, we are going to see a damn good match between two very gifted wrestlers. But before we get to that,
I didn't mind the finish. Not to give it away. Not that we can't all turn the past and watch it, but you know, going inward, I didn't mind because you kind of know because they're from different federations or organizations or whatever. They're all from different things. You kind of know there's going to be some kind of gimmick or some nonsense before you go in. If you know, based on most wrestling stuff like this. But yeah, I think they do an awesome match. But I don't mind the shenanigans because there's some good selling with the promos and stuff, and Lawler going, "I would take his eye out," and all this. I'm like, holy shit, he looks like he's serious. He's like, he sells it really well. But yeah, I think they have an awesome match, and we haven't seen these guys fight before, have we? Is this the first time they've ever had a match?
It's the first time we, as in me and you, doing the show, have seen them.
Like on a circuit or something, like at a big show or anything. We haven't seen them.
Yeah, we haven't seen these two go up against each other yet. There's a few things about Lawler on this show. You know, so before this match actually happens on the show, there's a segment where Lee Marshall invites the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine editor out to present Lawler. It's Bill Apter who's the editor. He's there to present Jerry Lawler with the award. I think it's the award for like most inspirational wrestler of the year or something like that. But,
which is weird because he's like the heel here. So why is he getting the most inspirational awards?
But what's even stranger is they do this thing to present them with the award, but Lawler does not come out to accept the award. He's not there. So they have to kind of end the segment and they just kind of end it and they go backstage. But then later on, right before he goes out for this match, they do the segment where Lawler's backstage and he's accepting the award and he's he's kind of healing it up and he's like, yeah, well, I am an inspirational wrestler and blah blah. But yeah, we see a couple of dueling promos from both guys. Like in Jerry the King Lawler's promo, he's like, yeah, well, I've been studying tapes of Kerry Von Erich. I know he's had that motorbike accident. You know, he seems to be protective of his leg, so maybe I won't go for the leg. I might go for, you know, another body part, and he's kind of very kind of, you know, it's he's kind of playing it straight, but
he was actually severed and all that.
Yes, so it's not really like public knowledge at this point in time what the deal is with his foot. Like lots of people within the business know what's going on, but as far as the fans know, he injured his foot, but he still has his foot. They don't know he's using prosthesis. Prosthesis? Jesus, my speech is just terrible today.
Yeah,
so yeah, he says he's gonna.
Is it true? Because I was reading about this the other day, not even Clash, but just about Von Erich. But in like both real life and kayfabe back then, they were like, "Oh no, his foot got damaged, but they're reattached." But didn't they find it years later? No, the foot's just fucking gone.
Yeah, it's gone. He had a fake foot. He had a fake foot.
Because I don't think he had multiple problems and infections, and he was wrestling when he shouldn't have been, and mucking it up, and then he like lost it or whatever.
And apparently there had been an incident on a WCCW show where I can't remember who he was in the ring with, but whoever his opponent
someone actually pulled the boot off and saw a stump and got a real fright.
Pulled the boot off. Yeah, pulled the boot off and then pretty much froze in shock and didn't know what to do as they were kind of just as Kerry had to like roll out from under the ring to escape. But we do also get a promo from Kerry before the match, a couple of promos actually, and man, he is high as pie. He is out of his head. He's like, you know, there's only one Mona Lisa, there's only one Leaning Tower of Pizza, and there's only one world champion. And he doesn't say Leaning Tower of Pisa. He says Leaning Tower of Pizza, like he's, you know, going to eat a pizza. He is just, he is just like, out of it.
Is he high because he's trying to like because of all his pain, or is it a mix of both, like the painkiller stuff and also
I think
because addiction and all that?
it's both painkillers and recreational drugs,
Right, yeah, a mix of both.
mixed
The Razor
together.
Ramon special.
And he's also right before he's going to go out to the ring. You may have noticed when this match starts, when the bell rings and the two of them go to lock up. Did you notice that like Kerry seems to have like blood on his arm?
I couldn't quite see the match. Like they do kayfabe it, and they're like, Lawler's injured him because they notice
Yes.
and they're like, oh shit, he seems to be really bleeding. I did have a listen to that Laps Fan podcast the other week, so I got the context of saying he accidentally sliced his own bicep or something, or
Yes, he had been taping. He was going to he knew he was going to be getting color in the match later on. So
oh
apparently
right, so that's
he had
why he had the
taped up
razor and he's fucked himself.
he had taped up his blade on his finger, but then later on he forgot and it accidentally like itched under his bicep
Yeah,
and cut open his bicep with the razor. So when he gets out to the ring and actually disrobes, keen-eyed viewers will see that the whole underneath of his arm seems to be like pretty much like
yeah,
gushing
and
blood
that's
and
why
it's
you
like
shouldn't go
going
to the
down his
ring high,
side.
kids.
Yeah.
Wait till you're in
But
the ring before you cut yourself, not before you get there. Don't get serious injuries that you could start bleeding out from.
do you reckon that Jerry Lawler started working his arm to kind of explain the blood or hide the blood, or do you reckon it was the plan to work his arm anyway and the blood just happened to be a nice coincidence?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So do you think this because the way like when Jerry Lawler, he's attacking Kerry's arm a lot at the start of the
Mm-hmm.
match, and it's the same arm that's bleeding. And I'm just
Right.
wondering, did he do that because he wanted to kind of cover for the fact that his arm had blood, or explain why his arm had blood, or was it just part of the plan of the match anyway to work his arm?
I don't know. I can't say because I don't know enough about it. But I mean, Lawler would be kind of old school guy. If something like that happened, he would definitely try and cover for it. And to my way of thinking, like if you saw it and you'd be like leading and be like, okay, I'm going to start attacking your arm, and going to. So it makes sense for the match and all that. And
You can definitely see right before they lock up that Kerry has noticed himself that he's bleeding and he's kind of like rubbing his arm and like picking at his arm. So maybe he was giving Lawler the kind of Iggy like, oh look, work my arm and explain why I fucking got blood on it, so the crowd don't think I cut myself open deliberately. Um, that little bit of trivia aside, it's actually a quality match. The two of them do a really good job of
well,
just
it shows
wrestling that
despite being
struggle.
high and doing a stupid fucking thing before the match,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
both still professional enough they can make it work. Which even in the best of matches, if sometimes people who are not intending to blade will accidentally get opened up on whatever metal, this and that, and ropes, and or they've got so much scar tissue that especially around above the eyes and forehead, it can just pop open like almost anything. That they've got to work with it and go with it and make sense of it in real time.
Cool being able to see the serious heel Jerry Lawler here on this show.
Yeah,
No
he's so
nonsense.
awesome in this when he's still the proper heel Lawler. I mean, he's awesome on commentary, of course, but there he's more. I don't want to say family friendly because he says a lot of pretty out there stuff, but he's definitely like full on villain mode here, like the almost like a Disney cackling villain.
Love his punches, man. There's a great moment where he's like
Yeah, punches.
leaning down over Kerry and just like kind of punching him, and it's just like I don't know how he does it without actually punching the guy in the head to make it look
Yeah.
like he's punching the guy like that. I just don't like there's a real magician's magic to how he throws those punches in the ring. Like they just look so good. And be fair to Kerry, even though he is wrestling with that whole foot situation, he does a terrific job as always of actually just like working his way through the match and going toe to toe with Lawler the whole way. There's a weird I don't know, the whole vibe of this match is kind of off. Sometimes it feels like the crowd does cheer Kerry, but then other times it feels like they're booing both guys, like they don't like either
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Like I
And then you're
noticed
kind of wondering, like,
at the very beginning of the event, not the match, but the event, when they're just announcing the matches, they actually boo both guys when they're mentioned over the announcing in PA. But when it comes to the entrances, they do boo Lawler, and then they mostly cheer for Kerry. But then during the match, there's a mixture of boos and cheers back and forth for both guys. So
yeah,
I'm guessing it's got to be
it's a
your
very
mixed
strange
audience.
vibe.
You got to have people from Texas and people from Memphis, and then we're in Chicago, so it's it's got to be a mix of like three different lots of crowds, I would assume.
And it's an interesting, I suppose, concept in the sense that, Lawler is the AWA world champion, but he's not really an AWA wrestler. He
No,
is kind of an outsider.
Memphis.
And then you've got this other outsider in Kerry Von Erich, who's going for the belt. Maybe it's a case where homegrown AWA fans are kind of like, well, neither of these guys are my guy.
Yeah, they're both
You know,
outsiders, and the
both
show's also not
outsiders.
their typical territory, so it's kind of
Yeah,
weird.
it is weird, but I suppose it's a testament though to both Lawler and Kerry that they for the most part they have an absolute belter of a match. Unfortunately, even though we saw blood in at least two other matches on the show before this match, for some reason they decide that a good
Oh yeah.
finish for this match is going to be the referee stopping the match because Kerry is too much blood, like he's bleeding too much. It's like,
Even though Kerry had won the
what the
match twice
hell?
at this point, he
Yeah,
got to like a 13 count where the referee was like lying on the ground.
after all of that to do a finish like that, especially a finish for a match that's supposed to be, giving you a definitive champion because it's both belts are on the
Yeah.
line. Like it's
I know they're
for
going to
for a
do
match
something
like
funny
that.
because they're both from out of town, and it's this bloody CompuGlobal global mega hyper that sort of combined thing. They're going to do some kind of dusty finish, and a belt's going to change hands or go back the next night. Yeah, something like that. But you don't expect well, we're stopping it because of the blood, and specifically they say because of Kerry Von Erich in his eye, and like. If you're watching like modern UFC, they do it all the time because it is a genuine risk. But in wrestling, they don't stop for fucking blood because of your
Yeah,
eye.
and here's the thing with wrestling, like if even though it happens all the time, it's really annoying when it happens. You really need consistency with rules because
Yeah,
if you attend the show and you watch two matches where guys are like bleeding and stuff like that's happening and the match continues, you're going to be really pissed off when a match does get stopped because of blood because you're kind of just like, well, it
yeah,
doesn't
and
look like that much more
it's
blood
a
than the
bullshit
last
reason
match.
because a guy like I don't know, the commission old guy, Fuddy Duddy, whoever he is, he's like, well, it's because those other matches were too bloody. And then if there was any more, we were sort of watching out for it. And this one was too much. And it's like bullshit.
Yeah, it feels like cheap on the night, and it maybe is a bit telling as to why the AWA, apart from being slow to get hip to the groove with technology and the like, maybe they had a bit of a backwards philosophy when it came to booking these finishes sometimes as well, because we saw earlier on how a vacant television championship managed to be awarded on a count out, and now we're
Yeah.
seeing two belts being unified together on the result of like a blood stoppage. Like, it's just a bit of it's two kind of flat finishes on two important championship
Yeah, it
matches. And
does
I
make
think it just
sense.
pisses off the crowd. Yeah, Chicago was not
I don't
happy.
mind that it's a gimmick or nonsense finish. I just don't like the way they did it, as you said. It's like, if you hadn't had all those other bloody matches, you could have gone, oh, maybe we can get away with it. But no, on the same night where you've had two other matches where they're, getting bloody and brutal, it's like,
Well, Johnny, on a night like this, on a big night, at a big event, you go through a hellacious match like that. I suppose all you can really look forward to at that point is getting paid.
yeah, looking forward to getting paid and getting laid. And I don't think either of those things happen.
No, I don't. And I'll tell you another thing about this show as well. where they are, it's an arena that sits like 10,000, but they actually only got 1,600 people to attend this show. So I have a funny feeling that good old Verne may have like paid a lot for a big building he had no chance of filling, and just pocketed whatever money he did manage to make off the box office at the gate on the night. Like 1,600 doesn't sound like an awful lot. I will say they did manage to shoot the event pretty well, that you didn't notice that they were in a mostly empty arena. When I say shoot it pretty well, what I mean is they darkened out so much of the arena that you could only really see around the ring anyway, so you didn't know they were
Yeah.
in pretty much a giant empty void.
Yeah, like your attention's not really drawn to it, yeah, but it's pretty infamous for people not getting paid or getting paid little to nothing. Jerry Lawler's got on record several times and reckons he got paid like absolutely nothing, as well as not only that, but like he's supposed to be like he's not really the A2A champion, even though he is on when going into this event. But apparently, like in subsequent TV, like Gagne went on TV and talk a bunch of trash after him, as well as not getting paid.
And it's going to lead to a big real life fight that's going to end up with Jerry Lawler actually being officially kind of stripped of the belt, because he never comes back to defend it again over this quarrel over not getting paid. So it's just another death knell in AWA's life, because they have to like obviously then do another vacated championship, and they have to do another whole, who's going to be the next champion stuff. They've at that point they've completely depleted name stars as well. I have a feeling if your surname was Gagne, you probably got paid for this show, but everybody else just did not get paid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I still think it's a good,
Despite
even
those
though it is
shenanigans, like it was an enjoyable show, and
it was
despite
an
like
enjoyable
not
show.
being a successful pay per view, people not getting paid, poor attendance, it's still a quality event overall.
I'm sure someday we will we'll hop in the time machine and we'll go back to an earlier AWA show where things were different and business was better and everybody was happier. But
It was all
no,
rainbows and
it was a
sunshine
good
and all
show
the
to
cost.
start off on. I like beginning at the end. I do like that. It's a nice little hook
Yeah, it's just it
in
feels
our
like because it's the
AWA
other. We've
journey.
talked about WWF stuff. We've talked about Crockett stuff. It's the third brand in the 80s. I mean, obviously there was dozens of territories, but it's the third big brand, of that era to sort of talk about.
And it's
In America,
I'm
there's stuff in Japan and
yeah.
other countries. But
I feel like 1988, we've actually covered a good chunk of shows that have happened there now from
yeah,
across the board, both WWF, NWA, and now AWA. So I would definitely, say to anybody watching, if you haven't seen any of our previous shows, and if you want to go in a decent deep dive into the year of 1988, go check out, our playlists and have a look. Ooh, and what have we got here? Is this
coming
is
up
this
next
next
week,
week?
managers, entourage, and valets. So it's going to be a mix. We've done previously our commentators special, so that was like sort of the voices of wrestling. Now we're looking at people are doing all the other stuff in and around the ring.
Yeah, I hope you have a few nice pictures of Missy Hyatt lined up for when we get to chatting about her.
I actually chose that fairly classy one there rather than a real swimsuit one.
Oh no, it's a lovely
Keep
picture.
it classy.
It's a lovely picture. Oh look,
Well, I wanted
and
one
like
that
I like
looks
Missy.
that she's like manager era rather than like like swimsuit competition, beach blast or whatever it was.
Oh, we're gonna have great fun talking about the Bobby Heenans, the Jimmy Harts, the Paul
Yeah,
Heymans, the Jim Cornettes. We're gonna
my
have
Diamond Dallas Page
a
might pop
great
up again.
time. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have there'll be a few kind of maybe less memorable managers and valets will kind of pop up in between. I'm sure as our memories get
I
peaked
think
here
if you
and
show
there.
this picture of old Paul Lee here, if you show that picture to people who don't follow wrestling, I'm sure they would think that was Jim Belushi. Just look at the hair and the suit, like
Yeah, or like the love child of Paul Heyman and Jim Belushi, perhaps.
it was a time when he was once thin before he became both the Penguin and Alfred Hitchcock of wrestling.
armed with that brick of a phone.
I love that
That's what
phone. That's that big, expensive Michael Douglas, like maybe vice cutter phone.
Yeah, real Wall Street stockbroker phone.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to chatting about the managers and the valets next week, and hope you folks enjoyed our look at AWA Super Clash 3, and yeah, had a great time as always chatting with Johnny, and looking forward to seeing everybody next week.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Leave us a comment if you like, if you enjoyed the show. You got any favorite wrestlers you liked in there, like old Sergeant Slaughter, or ones you didn't care for? Leave us a like or a comment, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Take care, folks.